Hi everyone, and welcome to a very special session of OTIS for Educators. Today you're joining us for a session where we're going to be learning about some back-to-school activities that you can make and push out to your students using Lumio. Today we're being joined by Michelle Conway-Gray. She's a PD specialist with Lumio by Smart, and she's going to be leading us through how to create and get started using some of these great activities today. Go ahead and take it away, Michelle.
Thanks, Nicole. And I'm so excited for this session. New year, new lessons, back to school with Lumio. As we kick off the school year, I just want to say welcome back to all of our educators that are heading back to school and is so excited to head it back to school with Lumio. So let's kick things off just with a quick introduction. As Nicole said, my name's Michelle Conway Gray, and I am the PD specialist for Smart and Lumio. I was a middle school teacher, math teacher, so I totally know that feeling of uh, back to school. I need to start getting some of my resources together that I want to start using throughout the school year. And today's that perfect opportunity to learn how Lumio can help you out. There's my social at Techie Millennial, where I post tips and tricks of how to use the smartboard as well as Lumio. So follow along there, and I would love to connect to see how you're using those tools throughout the school year. We will have several activities today that will be interactive. So if you ever want to just join in with a lesson, you can go to hellosmart.com, join as a guest, and put in the class code 246157. We also, as the teacher in Lumio, you do have a classroom management tab. So in your toolbar to the left-hand side, teachers have a series of different tools that they can use throughout the lesson, as well as your students. Up at the very tippy top here on the right hand or the left hand side, you have a classroom management tab. If I click on that and I click out on the instructions, I have the instructions for my students to sign into the lesson. So I have a QR code for my iPad classrooms. I also have the students can just go to hellosmart.com and put in 246157. And what's really nice is that there's this join link as well that I can copy and then move it into my Google Classroom or wherever else that I share resources with my students. So to kick things off today, I just want to quickly go over some of the things that we'll be covering during this hour-long session. So we will learn how we utilize Lumio to enrich instruction and increase student engagement throughout the next school year. We'll also experience Lumio right now from that student perspective, and then we'll dive into how I build some of these activities in that team. And I just want you to be reflecting throughout those sessions today. How can I use Lumio for my back to school and the new school year? So when you're thinking about last year, were there opportunities where you wish you had a little bit more student engagement with those devices in your classroom? Maybe you're an elementary school teacher looking for some centers for this school year, or my morning meeting routine, maybe in Lumio. Maybe I'm a secondary teacher looking how I can review some of their skills from last year at the very start of the year. So there's so many ways that you can use Lumio, and we can go on for hours today, but I just highlighted some of my favorite ways that I use Lumio at the start of the school year. For those that are not as familiar with Lumio, maybe this is one of the first times you're hearing about it. Lumio is a web-based program where you can create all different interactive lessons for your students. What's really nice is you can actually import and combine your existing resources, so you don't always have to recreate the wheel. You can bring in things from Google Slides to PowerPoint to Canva, also those PDFs that you have on your desktop, you can bring them in as well and make them interactive spaces for your students. We'll take a little bit of a look today at that opportunity. We'll also look at the games. The games are a really awesome win for teachers and students alike. We'll look at a few of the games today and how you can use it for review and some other back to school facts. And then we'll have the opportunity to look at some other strategies with our ready-made resources from our Lumio library. So a lot of good stuff that you can do in Lumio here, just highlighting a few of them throughout today's session. Before we kick things off, I always like to start the session with a little self-check-in with my participants. So you'll see on this slide right now, it's a view only for my students. I do have this already pre-made in Canva or Google Slides. I just really, really like to create over in those platforms. I love their editing tools and I love their graphics that they have. So I already have a lot of stuff already made before I started using a platform like Lumio. So if I bring that slide in from Canva, I now can make it an interactive space for my students. So right here, you see the directions. I just need you to grab one of these cars or one of this image of this infinitely cloned bus here. And I just want to hear where you fall on your Lumio journey. So right now, I'm feeling like pretty good about Lumio going into the school year. I'm an expert. So if I go over to my classroom management tab again, remember I have all these tools to the side as a teacher. If I go up to my classroom management tab again, remember this is where I got my instructions. I pushed this out from Canva. I now can make it an interactive space for my students. I have this opportunity here again to see my instructions. I can also turn on the class ID moving forward if I need to have this class ID down here for students that may have come in late to class. So this little persistent code is always a great option. But also in my classroom management tab, I have the ability to turn a space to an individual space, a group workspace, or a whole class whiteboard. I am going to make this into a whole class space because I want to see all of my students working at the same time. As a student, what their view is going to look like now, and I'm going to just pull this slide over here real quick, this window over here. This is my student view. I actually signed into my own class in an incognito window. This is what my students will now see on their devices. They're going to see a resume button. So once they hit resume, they can now interact with this whole class whiteboard. I have so many teachers that I am friends with that are maybe former Jamboard users, or they use other whole class whiteboard tools and they're looking for alternatives. This is a really amazing alternative for a whole class whiteboard, and especially a self-check-in. Maybe it's how you're feeling that day. Maybe how do you feel about starting sixth grade? This could be a really cool self-check-in for your students at the very start of the school year based on content or just everyday life. So I'm going to pull this back over here so we can look at the teacher side again. And I can see some of my students have already added to the page. At any point, I can click on the contributions on a whole class whiteboard space, and I can click on it and I can see who contributed. So I see that this one was added by Nikki. I can keep going down and clicking on each student's contributions. At any point on a whole class whiteboard space, if you think, okay, that's enough for editing, I just want to go back to view only. Teachers, you have this option at the very top right corner that says everyone can edit, and I can swipe this off. All right, so this is giving me a really good perspective of where I need to start as a teacher at the start of the school year. So I see a lot of novice users. I know where I need to start at the start of the school year. So very good. To the next slide here and really dive into our fun little icebreaker that we have. So we actually have this in our Lumio library. I just, as the teacher, saved it to my own personal Lumio library, and I just edited a little bit to make sense for my students. So this is called the summer squiggle time. You're given just this black squiggle, okay? And I just need you to study this black squiggle below. And you can use these infinitely cloned shapes if you want. But tell me, just based off this squiggle, I want you to draw me a picture of what your summer looked like. You can add a few sentences using the text tool over here, this A tool. If I click on the A and click on the space, I can write sentences, okay? I just want you to tell me real quick, how did your summer go in a few sentences, and then draw it out based off this squiggle. So again, I'm going to go to my classroom management tab. I am going to click not whole class this time, but this option is going to be an individual handout. So I'm going to click on individual handout. Each of you are going to get your own copy. So again, as a student, I am going to see this window. This is my student side. I'm going to see a start button. So once I hit start, I myself as a student will get this toolbar to the side, very similar to my own teacher's toolbar. And then I also have some really fun tools over here. I do have a pen tool, so maybe I want to draw some other things outside of the black squiggle. I have some other shapes that I can pull in with my gallery tool. I have my text tool, which is my A tool. And then a really fun tool for users that maybe need some reading help. I have this immersive reader tool. So if I click on immersive reader here as a student, it will highlight all of my text boxes. And if I click on one of the text boxes here, it actually opens up this tool called immersive reader, and it will actually read the text to me.
Study the
It will
black
also
squiggle
allow
below.
me to change some things based off my reading preferences. So maybe I need larger text. Maybe I need smaller text. Maybe I need a dark background. I also have the ability to change the language. So if I need to change the language here, I just need to go to text preference here at the top right corner, which is the reading preference. I can change the line focus, but I have this translate option. I can hit on translate, pick any language that is under here. We have over 60 plus languages. And I can look for, say, I'm Spanish from Mexico. Swipe on the document. And now that instruction is in Spanish.
Estudia el garabato
So
negro que se
going back
encuentra
to
debajo.
the activity here by hitting that back button, I have so many tools here off to the side as a student to make me successful. So I'm going to pull my student side back over here. And let's go back to the teacher side of what this looks like. So I see I have some students that have hit start. I also always have this clean teacher handout that I can review this activity. So maybe I'm going to draw my own here. I spent a lot of time on the beach, so I'm going to try and draw a wave based off of that wave. I'm going to use a blue. I'm not an artist, that's for sure. This is kind of giving me the sun. And I'm going to write a little quick sentence that I spent a lot of time at the beach. And there's mine as a teacher. Let's go down and see how my other students are doing. So I'm going to hop in here to Nikki's. Let's see how Nikki's doing. She's up to something. It looks like a pet maybe. I can't wait to find out more from Nikki. Let's just dive into ML. ML is still working. But yeah, a really fun icebreaker activity when you just kind of want to do a quick check-in and see how your student's summer was. And it's all based off that one squiggle. So it's always fun to see the students' creativity here. It's that great creativity. I love it. So Nikki has hit the done button. So that's why I see that green check mark next to her name. But really cool, really fun icebreaker. Again, there's so many out in the Lumio library that you can try out. But let's dive into some other activities as well. So a big one for teachers is classroom rules. So if you're thinking about starting off the school year, reviewing some classroom rules with your students, again, this could be a really fun whole class whiteboard. What should a good classroom feel like, look like? This can be an individual activity. You can make it a whole class whiteboard. You can even put them in small groups if you had a bunch of people signed into the Lumio lesson, and just get a feel of what they think a good classroom should feel like. And then together you can come up with your classroom rules. This one is actually, again, something that I pulled from the Lumio library. So you're going to see some really fun tools that the content team added, like a pool tab here. So this pool tab is just a little extra, maybe a couple things about what a good classroom might feel like, or what it means, what a good classroom means. It's a place of comfort and support for everyone. So what does that make? How does that make you comfortable and support in the classroom? So this cool tab is always a fun little tool to add to your slides in Lumio. And then you guys are getting a little exclusive a little bit, because you probably out at summertime, you didn't see that Lumio added audio features. So we have some audio as well in this. So we have attached audio now, an improved feature that was just added a few weeks ago. Like I said, you're probably just relaxing in the summertime, so you might have missed the announcement. But I'm going to get rid of this persistent tab just so we can see it. But right down here, you see this little attached audio or embedded audio. If I click on that as a student, I can hear the instructions.
How should a good classroom
As a
feel
teacher,
like? Grab a
you can
sticky
attach
and
it to
jot down your
objects. You can attach it just an embed, just like this one, but you have those options. So again, really fun tool. We can always go up to my classroom management tab, maybe change this into a whole class whiteboard space, and see what your your students think a good classroom looks like. And then from there, you can start, like I said, start talking about your classroom rules, maybe use, like I said, Lumio to create those classroom rules. I think it is a safe place. I think a good classroom is a safe place for all learners to share their thoughts. And then this individual said warm and inviting. So this could be a really cool brainstorm before we actually talk about our classroom rules. Again, a really fun one that I found in the Lumio library. So after we talk about classroom rules, maybe you use a super sort to really model good behaviors in the classroom. So if I'm an elementary school teacher and we're starting to talk about good behaviors, maybe I teach kindergarten or first grade, what are some rules that help you stay safe versus rules that you might need to be respectful? Okay. You could even do this as like good behavior, bad behavior. This could be a super sort about content. Maybe you're a sixth grade teacher and you want to review some fifth grade content. The games are amazing to start off with as a new user. If you feel like you're maybe a novice user in Lumio, the games are always an amazing place to start as a new user to Lumio. So how super sorts work, depending on how the theme is set up, there's all categories. So this is rules to stay safe versus rules to be respectful. And they just need to sort. into the right categories. And if it's wrong, you can see that it shoots out. That's how the creator set it up. But maybe I move this one. That seems like it's right. Beautiful. So I can model the activity, or my students, as you can see, if you're signed in, you can hit start. So if I bring my student side back over to the other screen here, you see that as a student, I have the word start here. And now I can actually interact with this game from my device. So you have some options. Maybe you want to model the activity on the display in your classroom, or if you have devices in your classroom, they can interact from those devices. So I'm going to quickly do this real quick. As a student, it's going to say, okay, you're all finished. Maybe you're like, hey, I want to try that again. As a student, I'm always going to get this reset button. Okay, and they can play as many times as they want. I'm going to pull this back over so we can see that teacher side again. As the teacher, the 3 games as of now that have an activity dashboard are Super Sort, Match 'em Up, and Rank Order. Super Sort is this categories game that we just played. I always get this activity dashboard, or they call it the View Progress tab right here in the middle. I can actually see in real time some student feedback or student data. So I can see the class overview. I have 2 students that have already completed it. One has not been able to hit start yet. I also have this swipe to say show results. So for me, maybe as a teacher, if I'm doing classroom rules and I see, okay, they're really getting these 2 wrong repeatedly, maybe I need to really hone in on that on my classroom rules. So this could be really, really helpful data for me when I'm making maybe my top 10 rules for the classroom. And then the ones that are correct as well. I have that option as a teacher. I also have this student progress tab. If I do want to go see individual student work, it's always going to be blurred out with the assumption that maybe you are sharing your with your students. I can just hit this blue button that says show student progress. And right on in there, I can hop into any student and see how they did off their first attempt. Remember, as I showed you, students can hit reset, keep playing, reset, keep playing. But I only see data off their first attempt. So again, games are an amazing place to start. As a new user to Lumio, or even kicking off the school year with students, the games are always a big win. I always love some of the other great resources when I'm thinking about, I was a math teacher, so maybe I want to just get a quick pulse of my students' soft skills in the math classroom. Again, math can be sometimes a little bit scary to some students, so I want them to really think about their personal math strengths and weaknesses on this individual assessment. So maybe we do some just self-assessments at the start of the school year as a math teacher. So I have here, maybe I have them do this strengths and weaknesses. So again, I'm going to go to my classroom management tab and I would change it into an individual handout. But as a teacher, maybe I have my students do this, but then I'm going to go back in and check this and see where they feel they are weakest or their strengths are. So if they say to me, okay, I'm really good at problem solving, I'm really good at asking questions, but I'm not a great writer, I might know that as a teacher going into the school year, maybe I have to work with that student a little bit of how they write back to me, how they solved a problem. Maybe they are creative, and that's where I'm going to lean in with them for their math. How can I come up with creative word problems for them? So this is actually for me a really nice check-in as a math teacher, because in general, math can be really scary for some students, like I said before, and this strengths and weaknesses is always like a really nice place to start with my students in math, especially this math facts. If they're telling me, I don't think my math facts are good, maybe I give them some take home, homework, or maybe even like, hey, we're going to do a center with math facts. I want you to start at the math facts center today when we kick off the school year with our math centers. This is a perfect place for me to know where they're telling me their strengths and weaknesses are. Obviously, as a teacher over time, I'm going to understand their strengths and weaknesses a little bit more. But this is for me a great check-in at the start of the school year with my students. And this again got from the Lumio library. So maybe you're like, hey, I don't really teach math. I'm an ELA teacher. You can edit any of these pages in the edit side and even here on the live side. And I can change this into personal ELA strengths and weaknesses. So you can change that text to make sense for your classroom. Same thing, I can edit these responses as well in the edit mode. I always think, again, goal setting is very important at the start of the school year. What are your goals for the start of the school year? What is your short-term goals? What's your long-term goals? I think going in with an intention is always going to be super valuable for students. And I think getting them understanding how to set goals is always a really motivating thing for them. And we can always come back to this file and say, let's do a quick check-in with your goals. Are you getting there? Are you need to maybe readjust some of them to get to that long-term goal? Again, goal setting. There's so many resources in the Lumio library for goal setting. And you can see here, I added some instructional audio for my students. Maybe they don't really know the differences between long-term and short-term goals are, so they can click on the audio feature and hit play, and they can hear a little bit about what they are.
Short-term goals are measured by days, weeks, months, or quarters.
So that new embedded audio feature is really, really powerful when you want to add different audio. We've always had instructional audio, and you can put up to 5 minutes of audio per page, and it lives here in the corner. Maybe that's really for just quick directions or something like that. But this embedded audio can be really, really powerful for students. And then they also have this little pull tab to, again, just as a reminder of what short-term and long-term goals are. So I might, again, turn this into an individual space, group workspace. Maybe they work in partners to come with short-term and long-term goals for the school year. But again, a really nice option for the back-to-school setting. And then finally, monster quiz. It's always a big win, especially when you have a bunch of students in here. Right now with 3 students, we're not really going to go over a monster quiz, but monster quizzes are team games where they're working together to break their monster out of their home. And it's quick little facts. So this could be back to school facts. I was secondary, so I've worked with secondary high school teachers who use it for the previous year content. They do a quick quiz on them at the start of the year to review those that content before they kick off their own content. So monster quiz can always be a really fun group class activity for teachers. With that being said, I would love to dive into that teacher side and review how I made some of these activities on the teacher side. So we're going to build at least one resource for the beginning of your school year together. So right now, if you are signed into my lesson, what you will need to do is go up to the 3 lines in the top left corner. And I'm going to just open up my student side here so you can see this. You're going to go to the top 3 lines on the left-hand side, and you are going to see this blue button that says Leave Class. So you're going to hit Leave Class here, and it's going to activate you to be able to go in, sign into that teacher side. So it will leave you here on this gray screen. At the very bottom, there is blue writing that says, "Are you a teacher? Sign in with Lumio." So you're just going to say, "Are you a teacher?" And then you are going to start that process of signing in with your teacher sign in. Okay. If you do not have Lumio and you want to sign up, it is a free resource. So you can always start off at the free account. Obviously, you can move up to paid accounts, but you can always start off with free. If you're like, hey, I don't even have a Lumio account, you can always sign up for free. As always, once you kind of start getting into Lumio and you start getting signed in, you can always just go to golumio.com, and then that will also bring you to the Lumio homepage where you can also sign in or sign up for Lumio. We also it will tell you when you have deals going on from this homepage, but this is where you would sign into Lumio. So I'm going to get out of here real quick. And I am actually going to hop out of my teacher side here and say Ed lesson so I can go back to my home screen. So this is your Lumio home screen. So you're always going to see this is your interface or your home page when you are signed into that teacher side of Lumio. You're always going to see your name at the left-hand side. This is going to be student facing. So if this is something that you see maybe Michelle Gray and you want it to say Mrs. Gray, you always have this option in your banner on the right-hand side to edit your class. And there's going to be some other options in here as well that I would like you to take a look at. The first one is going to be renaming yourself. So if you do want to rename yourself for the start of the school year to be what you want the students to refer you as, I could be Mrs. Gray or Mrs. G, and I'll hit save. And now my class is named Mrs. G. If I go back over here, I have two options. I have edit class and I can manage my class access here, but I also have this live clickable link that says class ID, and my number is always 246157. That is the ID attached to my account. So anywhere I go, my students are still going to put 246157, even if I'm on my interactive display or even if I'm just from my computer, it's always going to be 246157. And when I look at my class access here, there is that little join link again. Remember, I showed you that at the very beginning of the class. This is my live link. So I can always copy this and put it in my LMS where I share information or resources with my students and just maybe have it as a pinned resource for them. And then for my iPad classrooms, I would definitely print this out, maybe just tape it to the wall so that way they can just scan right on in and they're in your lesson. This is a really nice option since our little ones sometimes don't know numbers yet. So they don't know 2461 or 15 or 7. So sometimes that QR code can be really, really helpful. And then same thing here, you have something called guest access. I work with educators. Remember at the very beginning, I said join as a guest because that's going to differentiate your teacher and your student side. So you can see what that student side looks like. But for our students, we do recommend turning this off and having them come in with their credentials. But sometimes I work with pre-K or teachers and they just prefer to have that off on so they can just kind of hop right in as a guest since they don't know how to type their credentials. You do have that option. And then finally in that class edit class option, you have manage immersive reader. We briefly looked at that when I said you can translate the instructions. You actually have that option to have that on or off for your live lessons. I prefer just to keep mine on because I like that tool for my students, but some teachers prefer to have that off. So that is an option for you as a teacher. Remember, it's that little book icon at the bottom of the toolbar for your students and teachers. All right, you have all of your lessons here as you start creating. You also can create folders with this folder icon at the top right corner. I can also search for something if I want to find something. But where I found most of my resources today is in the Lumio library. So if I click on Lumio library, it's that center tab or far right of the center tabs here that it says Lumio Library. This has some incredible resources back here. So you don't always have to recreate the wheel with your own resources. You can just hop into Lumio Library and find some really great stuff. Every first of the month, we launch new lessons here under featured. So there's a really good group of new resources back here. So you can say see more. And there's some really, really great either back to school, or now we're looking at some fall stuff, or class respect. There's that digital classroom rules that I used in today's session. But there's some really, really good stuff back here. And this is where I found a lot of my ideas for today's session. So maybe I like this digital whiteboard classroom rules and I want to repurpose that. I'm just going to click on it. Remember, this is that whole class whiteboard that we used together. And, this is just the title page. This is maybe giving you some more resources. This is actually looking like a full lesson a little bit here with all different ideas of how I can do that classroom rules activity. I'm only going to probably need like a few of these slides. I'm not going to need the whole thing, but I'm still going to save this to my library. I'm going to save this to my library. And then you're going to see that it's processing or importing. So I'm going to hop back. I really, really love. So I have a couple different collections here. One of my favorite collections for especially elementary and thinking back to school is managing your classroom. There's some really great morning meeting ideas here. Obviously, August is over, so I might look into September's morning meetings here. So those are really awesome resources for your morning meeting slides. Maybe you have open house coming up. There's an open house template for elementary. There's also an open house template for secondary. There's some really, really good resources back here for classroom management. There's some really awesome like attendance slides that you might want to pull from. But yeah, there's some really, really good stuff back here for managing your classroom, especially those like first more back to school, like morning sessions with your like morning meeting sessions. And then there's just some really amazing categories that you can always dive into. So maybe you're kicking off the school year with some back to school with like read works, articles, things like that. I would highly recommend looking at different categories. And then also, when I was thinking about today's session, I just did a quick search here for back to school. I just literally typed in back to school in the search up at the top left corner and then hit enter. And I found some really amazing resources in that back to school. So I just again typed in back to school. I didn't do any different filters or anything like that. I just did some back to school things here, or back to school search, and I found some really, really great files that I would definitely repurpose if I was making a full-blown lesson around back to school. Hopping back over to my library now. So obviously when you have a moment, I recommend diving into that Lumio library. You will see right under recents that those files that you have saved. Typically, you can just hover over the file and start editing it. You can start it, you can actually assign it to your students, but I'm actually not going to touch that file for now, you're going to see when I hit new that I do have that option. So right under my name, I have new right here. I also have import, so I could import resources if I wanted to, but I have this option for new. So when I click on new, I get this window here that's showing me all different places that maybe I want to start. So I have import. This is typically where I start as just a user because I already have some really great Google Slides, PDFs. You also can start off with a YouTube, which is nice because it's an ad-free experience. And there's some other really cool places that you can start, but I'm actually just going to start with a quick little import. I'm going to go to import resources. And I am just going to import from my library. I'm going to take those things that I just saved from Lumio library, and I'm going to bring it right in here into this file. So I'm going to hit my library. And there is that TEQ, the tech one that I have that I just used. And then I also have this one that I just saved from the Lumio library. So I'm going to click on that one, and I'm going to hit select. Once I hit select, it's going to show me all of the slides. And remember, like, I don't need this title page. Like, I don't need those things. I just want a couple of those whole class options. So I'm going to uncheck this. I'm going to choose, I really liked this one, and I really like this one. And you know what? I'm going to choose this super sort too. This little icon means super sort. Over time, you're going to probably get used to what the icons are for that specific game. But I just, as a user for a very long time, already know that means super sort. And I'm going to hit add. From there, it's creating my new file. I am a Google user, so it's saving in the back end in my Google Drive. And here are those 3 slides that I have. And maybe, I will come back to these slides, but I already know I want to add a little like introduction slide. So I'm going to add a plus here down below in the left-hand side. And same window is going to pop up. So I'm going to get used to this as a user. And I'm going to just add a blank page. So I have these templates here, and I'm going to have a new page. And I'm going to look at the themes. Maybe there's a back to school theme. So let's see. I'm going to click on it. And let's see. This kind of looks like me. I'm going to hit that one. So you can see I can mix and match my resources. And I'm going to move this up here. Wrong spot. And I'm going to start editing this. So I'm going to say back to school, and I'm going to double click so it highlights that text box. And I'm going to say, welcome to Mrs. G's classroom. And I'm going to maybe make sure it looks like how I want it to. Looks good. I can highlight it. I don't love the blue, so I'm going to change it to black. Maybe white. Nah, I'm going back to blue. And I'm going to change it to pop-in, so I can change the font if I wanted to. So you can see I have all these different editing tools. I also want to highlight recently, they've added some different editing tools here under the indent options. So you have how you want to align the alignment tools. I also have spacing now. I also have bullet points, which are really fun new editing features that were added. And that looks good. And then maybe I'm going to add just like a little sticker here. So again, I have my gallery tool of heart plus sign, and I'm going to add, let's have it be a party. I'm going to add a little sticker here. And it's going to be like hanging from the O. Beautiful. And from here, it's a creature habit for me. I'm going to hit shift and select that text box and select the little sticker here. And you're going to see that all of them are highlighted. And I like to lock things down. It's not necessarily meaning like a student's going to interact with this page, but it's still, I'm going to lock it down so it does not move on me. Just a little tip there. From here, I'm going to just quickly edit some of these pages. So I'm going to go to this Good Classroom page. They actually have this as a group discussion, which is nice, but I do want to edit it a little bit. So I'm going to hit Edit Activity. And maybe I want to pull this pool tab out. I like the pool tab, so I'm going to keep it. Maybe I don't want as many stickers options, so maybe I want to edit that. So I'm going to infinitely clone this one. I'm going to delete that, uninfinitely clone, and delete that. I'm just going to keep it one sticker to give them more space to jot their ideas. I love this little apple over here. It's really cute, but I'm going to just minimize it just a little bit so there's more space, but you can see that the audio is attached to this apple. So I'm just going to move it down just a little bit just so they can have a little bit more space to jot their ideas. And again, I'm just going to lock that back. Looks good to me, but again, I actually want this to be a whole class. I don't want it to be small group discussion. So I'm going to go to my magic wand up here. This is where the magic happens, I say. And I can go to my magic wand and I'm going to turn this into a whole class whiteboard space. Beautiful. That page looks good to me. I'm going to go to the next page. Again, I'm going to edit this activity. Maybe I don't even need them to use the sticky notes. I just want them to actually just type what they think respect is versus kindness. And I'm just going to delete the sticky notes. Maybe I just change this text to say, write a statement. Write a statement and add it to the correct category. Beautiful. And again, lock it in place. The students will move it on you if you don't lock it down. Again, looks good to me. Looks like they have a lot of space for it. And I'm going to say individual handout this time for my magic wand. And then finally, I have this game. So you can either hit the plus sign and go to game-based activities. Remember, these little graduation caps are super helpful when you're getting started with Lumio. If I click on what I think is super sort, I think I know what it is, but maybe I just need a little quick video to see how it works. Click on that graduation cap. And right from here, you are able to see how you could use it and edit it, change it, and do all those fun things. You can see different themes here. So this quick video is super helpful. So from here, I can also click on super sort and create my own super sort from scratch. So I have my categories. I can put a bunch of responses down below. You're essentially just making the answer key here when you're creating a game. But luckily from the Lumio library, they actually had a game already pre-made. So I can click on that game right here, super sort, and hit activity. And I love these strategies, but maybe I want to add my own. I want them to maybe number 5 for safety, put my own idea here, and maybe I want to put my own idea over here, rule number 5 for respect. I can also come in here and change it to a picture if I needed to. So maybe it's kindness. So I have options to edit anything that I save from Lumio library, and I can hit next. And the garden theme was fun, but there's some other themes. I really love the pirate theme, so I'm going to change the theme to pirates instead of the garden. Now I have my game ready to go about classroom rules. Okay. And then finally, the only thing I need to do in my edit mode is to make sure I give it a title. So I am going to go to my title page up here, and I'm going to say this is 2024's classroom rules lesson. It does automatically save, but just like a best practice, I always tell my educators to hit finish editing. And from there, the lesson is ready to go. So from here, I have a couple different options. Remember, I can hit start and just start the lesson, and then we're kind of back to where we were when we started the lesson today. I also have the option to hit assign. So if I want to assign this as an asynchronous activity for my student, I can hit assign, and I get this student share link. So the student share link, if I hit copy, I then can now put this as an assignment in my Canvas course, my Google Classroom, again, wherever I share resources with my students, I have this option to hit copy. And then I always can go back and edit as well. For my secondary folks or even elementary as well, some of us teach multiple classes in the day and might repeat a lesson. Each one of your lessons has 3 dots here. And you have different options in the 3 dots. Highly recommend duplicating a lesson when you have multiple classes. From here, you can do a couple different things. So in the top right corner, you have a graduation cap. So if you ever need to, learn more about Lumio, you can click on that graduation cap. We have an academy where you can do free self-paced courses of how to get started with Lumio, level up with Lumio. So signing into the academy is a really nice spot. You also can learn about our communities as well. So highly recommend hitting that graduation cap and seeing what you can learn about with Lumio. You also have the question mark. Again, here's some training resources. You can also provide feedback to our developers at any time in that graduation cap. And then finally, you have your little face up here, and you can click on join our communities. And in our communities, we have 2 places where you can learn how to learn how to use Lumio. We have our Lumio Educators Facebook group where you can say join now. And then if you're really, really passionate about Lumio, and even if you're getting started with Lumio, our Lumio Ambassadors group is a really amazing place to be to ask questions, share resources. We do exclusive events with our ambassadors. And then what's a really nice perk is that our ambassadors actually learn about new features coming out before anyone else. And they actually have opportunities to meet with our developers and give them feedback as well. So that community is always a great place to learn more about Lumio. So highly recommend that. We do have a resource link for you. We will share today's file and also this Wakelet has all the resources I just talked about. So some fun improvements that have come out over the last few months, how to also sign into Lumio, and then all of those Smart Academy, Lumio Academy that I just talked about, our upcoming webinars. You can always come back to this recording in the OTIS site, and the OTIS site has some amazing Lumio courses that you can take as well. And then also there's that Facebook group, and also how you can apply to become an ambassador is all on that resource page. So hopping back in real quick here, I'm going to hit start. Remember, that's how I can start any lesson. Scroll down here at the bottom. Remember, our go-to resources are our academies, our communities, as well as our YouTube page. Hopefully you were able to kind of see how you can use Lumio for back to school. There's so many different ways between goal setting, classroom routines, and then just reviewing content for the upcoming school year. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So one question that I did have actually was, I know in the past year, the shared library has come out within Lumio. So let's say teachers want to pool their resources together, create lessons, and add it to the shared library. Is there a way to ensure that teachers are just making a copy of that and not necessarily editing the original in the shared library?
Love that question, Nicole. Yes, so we do have shared libraries now. We have what is called the Spark plan, which gives you access to shared library spaces. I really love this option to maximize. We used to only have to like share that teacher link back and forth, and now we can create a library. So within a shared library space, you can control how users have access to files. So if I come into this PDS team one, maybe this is a collection of teachers that I'm working with. Each user has different permissions, if you will. So if you see here, you can have editors. You also could have just view only. If I change one of these folks to view only, when you want to add people to your library, you have this blue icon up here that says invite new members. One link is going to be that editing link, that editor link. And then this one is, hey, you can preview the resources, but you can't really edit them, but you can save them to your personal library and edit from there, but you can't edit from within this shared library space which we're calling co-editing. So great question. Love that question.
Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. And thank you so much for sharing such wonderful resources. I hope that everyone learned something that they can get started with today, using with their students as they get started going back to school in the coming weeks here. Also stay tuned into later this afternoon. We have an additional Lumio session if you're looking for more content. We also have so many Lumio videos and other smart videos on our platform, so definitely check those out. Thank you so much again, Michelle, for joining us here today. Thank you, Ryan, for making everything run so smoothly. If you have any questions after today's session, please use that Ask OTIS feature. One of our team members will be happy to help you out. Thank you guys so much and have a wonderful day.